And we just decided, hey, let's give it away for free and kind of see where this thing goes. I mean, come to find out, there was a huge need for it. And our membership count just kind of took off.
One characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. It was grit.
And
right,
we're back.
Hey, we did it at the same time there. Awesome. Well, yeah, today's a special episode. We've got another guest on the podcast this time, Tyler Williams. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
We were talking about this earlier, but I wish we could do this in person. Obviously, it's not easy to do that anymore. But so Tyler's actually, we're in a small town outside of Atlanta called Decatur, Georgia, and Tyler happens to be in the exact same town, running an awesome, amazing SaaS business. And we met maybe, I guess it was a year ago, I think, talking about intercom or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But
talking about intercom.
Yeah, intercom pricing or something like that. I remember. But
no one ever talks about intercom pricing.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, we figured we'd have you on the show. You know, for everybody that doesn't know, Tyler was a co-founder of Motion Array, which just sold for $65 million. No big deal. So we figured it'd be a great time to have Tyler back on and kind of chat about that, and then just, go into all things SaaS. Yeah, I guess my first question is, what was the first thing you went out and bought after selling a company for $65 million?
Were there too many to remember, or is that nothing's changed? Is that the nothing changed pause?
Yeah. I mean, we did make a couple of large purchases. I bought a Ferrari.
Oh,
but
ooh.
Yeah,
that was easy to forget.
That was before we actually sold the company.
But
that's so it doesn't count then, I guess.
Well, you knew that you were going to sell it though, right? You're like, oh, this is coming.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
And my wife got sick of me looking at the pictures all the time.
Yeah, that's like the closest I've gotten to that is when I finished college and got my first job over the summer. Before I started working, I bought a TV. So
nice.
Not quite a Ferrari. Maybe next time.
Yeah, so I bought the Ferrari, and then we just purchased a new home over in Druid Hills that we are going to be renovating a little bit before we move in. So
nice.
Excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're going from 1,700 square feet to 6,000 or something.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
That's amazing. So do you have the renovation and stuff? Is that already ongoing or queued up, or where's that stand?
Yeah, we're getting designs right now for the kitchen as well as the master bath. So.
Nice. That's awesome.
Very cool. That's always fun. So I don't know, literally every single person that I know, at least in my kind of closer network of friends and just generally people I know in this area, every single person has moved in this past year.
Oh, wow.
Which I know is kind of plays into the trends of what's going on, but it's kind of crazy. And Kyle's wife is a realtor, and she's slammed with millions of houses to sell.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy, but yeah, it's once you work from home all the time, well, everybody working from all the time, you just, I guess at some point you're I need more space.
Yeah. And that was a big draw. It was the yard and the house. At the house, it's on 2 acres, and the backyard's nicely landscaped, and there's room for a pool. So
nice. That's awesome.
A lot different from what we have here.
Is that a long-term or near-term plan?
We meet with them next week to start the plans. So
summertime pool? Yes, maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome. That one's nice too, because it's out of your way. You're not.
Yeah.
The other stuff is kind of up in your face, but.
And I'm also thinking about doing a speakeasy in the basement.
Ooh.
But I don't drink, so I'll have to have people over that actually do.
Well, we definitely drink. We definitely drink, and I guess that's a good segue. Real quick, Kyle, what are you drinking right now?
That is the sound of my. It's just a little made-up cocktail of sorts. I get hungover extremely easily these days, so I put some lemonade and some Campari and bourbon on ice. So
nice.
It's pretty good. It's pretty tasty. It's refreshing. It's probably more of a summertime vibe, but it's
good. Yeah. I have another tip top old fashioned. I said that wrong. Tyler, how about you? Don't drink? Do you have you're just crushing a water right now, or what do you have out there? I
don't have anything.
It's all good. It's all good.
I quit drinking like a year and a half ago, so
it's probably for the best. We were talking last week's episode. We were talking about some new drinks that I just purchased, which are like basically super low alcohol. So I'm trying that. I'm trying to go that direction. I'm trying to like drink less. It's been very difficult over the past year to do that, but I've been trying to see like if I can find anything that's just like that I like, that's maybe like a little bit, just to get, just to like kind of calm you, I guess. Bring, calm the vibe a little bit, but not get too crazy with it. At this point, I'm just getting too old.
I had to find something to like fill the gap. So, every now and then I get crazy with the Coca-Cola.
Ooh, actually underrated though. Like, cause I feel like I stopped drinking soda regularly, like in adulthood at some point, just because it was like, I'll drink a beer or like, a cocktail or something, or I just drink water or coffee. Like that's it. Now I'm kind of, now that I'm like old and fragile, I'm like, what's actually really nice? A fountain Coke. Those taste amazing.
Oh yeah. Every now and then.
Yeah. Like if you don't have it very often, it's delightful.
Well, so let's get into, I'd love to, I don't know exactly where to start with like the acquisition and everything, but I'd love to just like find out a little bit about like how this came to be. Was this company sort of, I don't know, were you guys partnered with them for a really long time, or did this sort of like come out of nowhere and happen really quickly? Like what was the process like?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting actually. So we were contacted by, I think it was one of their original investors. He was saying, hey, I'm here in Atlanta. I'd like to meet you guys. And so we met them and, just kind of talked shop. And then, he got around to asking us if we ever thought about taking funding or kind of what our plans were. And we just said we're bootstrapped. We're not planning on taking any money. And then we left it at that. And then I think it was maybe a year later, someone else reached out to us that was about to be investing in their company and was mentioning how, it would be a good thing for the companies to get together, and asked us if we ever thought about selling. And I mean, we thought about it a little bit more, but that's not when we made the decision to sell. So both of those times passed, and then a financial advisor contacted my business partner and basically said, hey, the market's really hot right now for your type of company, and you never know what's going to happen in the future. Who's a really good salesman. And that's when, we got to thinking about it. And it had been about 9 years since we first started the company. And
this was about a year ago or like 6 months ago?
Yeah, it was over a year ago. Yeah. So that's when we kind of decided, hey, let's maybe go through with this and just kind of take care of our families and get rid of all the risk that we have. So that was about a year ago. And rather than just, contacting those guys back, we decided to go the investment banker route just to see if we could get, multiple bids and try to drive the price up. But what's funny is we ended up selling to the original company that had reached out before the investment banker. So yeah.
That's awesome. So it was like a long mental journey to get like, oh, we're actually at a place where we would actually consider doing this. And now we're going to call you back after a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. So we met with the bankers and they put together all the marketing material, and we were getting ready to go to market. And this was February, a year ago, February 2020. I had gone out to Steamboat to go skiing, and I was like picking out houses. And then, when we got home, COVID hit, and they basically took the company and shelved it and basically said, we're going to wait to see what happens. And it was like the longest 3 or 4 months of my life.
So you waiting. Basically, before you were like already had some, like the process had somewhat started, or at least was headed in that direction. So in your head, you're thinking like, this is happening. And then it was like, wait, hold on, maybe not.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That sounds like because it's like also like, I guess you have a pretty good thing going anyway, but it's like once you've made that leap in your head,
different.
Yeah.
They gave us kind of their projected acquisition prices, and we were super excited, and then they just slammed the brakes. So very frustrating, but it was worth it.
So you mentioned obviously being bootstrapped. Is that something, and like when originally you've gotten any interest from investors or, acquirers or whatever, you kind of were like, in the past, but is that something when you set out, were you intent on going it like on your own and funding it yourself, or did it just kind of happen that way?
I think we were pretty intent to be bootstrapped, but I think, a lot of that came just because we didn't know about raising money. And there was kind of for me at least, there's like a fear there of the unknown. And so it was just kind of, let's just bootstrap this thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's always easier to just not do that. Like Kyle and I have, every time that we have had conversations with people, it's like, it feels like it takes up all of our time. Like, cause we're just, in terms of founders, it's just two of us. So we're spending, if we're spending all of our time, like nothing's happening in the business. So we're spending all of our time doing that. Some of the conversations go well, some of them don't go well. Like, I don't know. It feels like at some points it feels like a waste of time because you could just go like close a deal and it's like, oh, that's about the same. I remember at one point there was like a couple months there where we closed enough revenue to be like how much we were going to raise from somebody.
Yeah.
So it was like, wait, why are we doing this? So yeah, I totally get what you mean there.
So you mentioned sort of shopping it around a little bit once you kind of decided like, let's see what we can get. I was just thinking a lot of that, it sounds like, has to do with liquidity for yourselves. Obviously you have a lot of your like theoretical net worth tied up in the company. So did you consider, as part of that, did you ever talk about or consider just like raising money and taking money off the table that way? Like, or I was just thinking like Calendly, I guess kind of just did something along those lines, I guess.
Yeah. I think for us, it was kind of, we were tired of doing it as well.
Like, all or nothing sort of.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm going to be there and working and growing it. I don't know. The idea of just taking money early just to have it, I don't know. There just wasn't that appealing.
Well, and it's like now you also have, for better or for worse, you also have like investors that you might not have had. And so it's like, you took some money off the table, but you're still doing basically the same work. And now you have other people like breathing down your neck. So you kind of are like getting this thing you never wanted in the first place, I guess.
Yeah.
Plus it's been 10 years. So at 10 years, I don't know at what point you feel like things are, I feel like I felt like that before, like even in just our short amount of time where you're just like frustrated with whatever, or you're just like, oh, I'm tired of this. Like I need a break, which is why we've built other, like products and companies in the middle of building another, our other one. So I totally understand that.
Yeah. And it depended on the day. Some days were great. And then other days, not so good, and there were just constantly these recurring things that would happen, and it's just became so frustrating. So
did you guys ever do, like, I know, or at least I read that you guys were around, and maybe it's what you guys are at now, but around like 30 employees. I think when we talked, you guys were around, it was like 20 or 30 employees, mostly remote. I would assume you guys were pretty profitable at that point. Did you guys ever do like profit sharing? Did you ever take money off the table that way? Or just kind of waiting for the big exit to come?
Yeah, we took distributions as the founders, and we weren't living on rice and beans, so we were doing all right.
Buying Ferraris and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was right at the end.
One Ferrari.
Ferrari. I know you don't want to get into too much of like the revenue numbers and whatnot, but let's take a step back. Actually, like you guys started around 10 years ago. And I think I remember what you told me last time was that you guys were kind of, okay, so I guess, let's take another step back. I guess we should probably talk about like what Motion Array does. And I know I'm not doing this justice, but you guys are like a marketplace for like stock audio, stock video. And I know you do a bunch of other things as well. Kyle was talking about it before, but like plugins, and I know you have like a collaboration approval for like feedback around videos and things like that. I know you do a lot of different things in that realm. Yeah, actually, maybe why don't you take it and talk a little bit about what you guys did?
Yeah, so when we first started, we were solely After Effects templates. And I guess for those that aren't familiar, After Effects is motion graphics software for just making, nicely animated videos. And so we would build templates, and then that would allow people to basically insert their own photos or videos into the animations and change the text, add their logo, that kind of a thing. And our backgrounds are in motion design. So we were originally creating all the content for about probably 2 to 3 years. I think we ended up making about 1,000 templates each. Yeah, and then it came to the point where we're like trying to figure out how we can get other people on the marketplace to upload their content, and it was such a hard thing to do. I think like our strongest competitor had like this really tight grip on all of those artists because they had like an exclusive contract with them, and they were making a ton of money there. So if you came and said, hey, why don't you upload your templates here, they kind of just laughed at you. So there was a lot of like begging and pleading to get people to join our marketplace when we finally figured out how to do it, which we should probably talk about. Yeah, so we had at the time, it wasn't an unlimited membership. It was a credit-based system. So you would get a certain amount of credits, and each download was 1 credit per month. Yeah, so we knew if we were to ask people to join and then tell them like, hey, you're only going to make like $1 per download, they weren't going to be too happy. But, we eventually built it up so that the revenue was there. And what we decided to do was kind of go with the big pool model. So all the money that comes in for the month, we take 50% of that and then give that to all of our contributors based off of the downloads that they have for the month. And yeah,
Just
so
like
that
as a
was our
percentage of
solution.
total downloads, basically.
Yep.
Okay.
So we did that for a while, and yeah, slowly grew the company. There wasn't like anything crazy that happened as far as growth goes there. And then one day, Eddie, my business partner, he was like, hey, so at this point, we had After Effects templates, we had stock music, sound effects, and video, and we were doing okay.
And jumping in, like, did you expand those, like the offerings from After Effects to those other things as part of like, oh, now that we have a marketplace, like we can just do more stuff because there's people who are willing to do things? Or was it organic, or was it more like, we now declare we will do these? I mean, you set out to kind of like find people for those things.
Yeah, it was all just based on the users, and it's like, hey, they're here for these templates for animations. Why not offer them music to go along with it? Because in the template previews, we would be we needed music. So we would make the templates to the music that we already had in the marketplace. So everything kind of just was for the user and what they needed.
One big offering. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, whatever you need to make a video is kind of just what we were after. But there was a big turning point when my business partner, Eddie, was like, hey, what do you think about making a Premiere Pro template? And Premiere Pro is just video editing software. It's not really known for its graphics or animation capabilities. So I told him his idea was stupid. But he kept pressing, and he went ahead and created one. And we just decided, hey, let's give it away for free and kind of see where this thing goes. And I mean, come to find out, like, there was a huge need for it. And our membership count just kind of took off. And that's where we kind of had our little bit of a hockey stick growth. So, yeah, and I should explain, like, the reason they were so useful for our audience is because most of our members were in Premiere Pro to begin with. And if they wanted nice graphics, they would have to go to After Effects, and they would have to learn After Effects, which is, kind of daunting, and it's pretty thick software. So if we could offer them kind of the same graphics and animation in their native software that they already know, that was like just a win. So
that's amazing. Is that, I don't know these tools very well at all, like some of them by name, but not by trade or anything. Is that like did you have a sense of that going in, that there were a lot of the people were kind of looking up, like finding After Effects plugins or whatever was actually like them solving a symptom of their real problem? Or did that just was that part of just a discovery of like accidentally deciding to do it, basically?
For me, I see it as an accident, but Eddie might have put 2 and 2 together before I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because his background is in video editing before he was a motion graphics designer. And I was always just a motion graphics designer. So he probably had a clue before I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's one of those things too, where you just kind of put it out there, and it's like, now looking back, it's like this big, like you said, a turning point or like an inflection point.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because, I thought it was a stupid idea. And what's funny is we put it out like on Reddit, on some video editing subreddits there, and we got so much hate for it. But Reddit, I think...
Yeah, that can happen on Reddit, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, it just was worrisome for a lot of those guys because they were worried, the craft that they've worked at for so long is now going to be replaced by these templates, kind of a thing. So when in fact, it's just kind of like another tool for them to use. But
yeah, and you're like, hey, if you're worried about it, why don't you become a creator and submit your stuff?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like the no code movement a little bit, because it's like, it doesn't replace developers, right? It's just like a tool to like move faster on certain parts of the process,
or like enable people that otherwise wouldn't be doing it at all to like do stuff. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are the big no code companies now? I know Bubble, but I don't even know how well that one's going.
Yeah. I mean, Glide is like the one that does like spreadsheets into mobile apps. There's a couple of those.
Oh, wow.
Zapier.
I mean, Zapier is just like insane. They're kind of like the
Airtable.
Yeah, there's so many. And I guess there's like different categories. This is something we've played with and kind of have used in parts of our like proof of concept type stuff. But I definitely find myself like, sometimes I'll be like trying to connect like a form to a Zap to a this to that. I'm like, I probably could just like write code and do this faster.
Yeah, like some of it I don't get, because I'm like, as someone that's not a developer, I'm like, how is that? I don't understand how it's no code. It's just like everybody calls their product no code now. And it's like, wait a second. It's just, I'm just using a UI to do something. That's what software was before. Like,
well, yeah,
that's what software is. Like, what is
the sort of branding thing where everyone's like, oh, it's no code. It's like, well, yeah, of course. Like my Gmail is no code also.
Yeah. Once it becomes popular, like some sort of term becomes popular, then it's everything is that, like AI and
blockchain
and machine learning and whatever.
And also there's like the software itself is obviously code. So I guess if you're offering like a marketplace, or like you have a software tool that's built on no code, and then someone builds no code tools on top of yours, then like that's kind of like a sandcastle of no code.
Yeah.
But speaking of marketplace, I was going to ask you about that. Like, I think it felt pretty casual that you were like, yeah, we were doing these ourselves, and then we just kind of made it a marketplace. I obviously have no experience doing that, but it sounds like it would be like a pretty big transition in terms of running a company. Is that something how did you kind of navigate that switch?
Yeah, I don't know. That was a while ago, so I have to think.
And I guess I just sort of related is like, obviously you said what, 30 or 40 people at last check. So like when along that sort of same timeline was the team kind of expanding? Yeah.
So to begin with, like when we turned it into a marketplace, I think we just had like one developer. Yeah. And then we had to hire some content reviewers to just test everything for quality and make sure it was good to go. But yeah, for me, the everyday, it's funny because when we first started, we were kind of doing the like minimum viable products, and we didn't even know we were doing it. But we were like, hey, we want to have people uploading stuff to our site. What's the easiest way we can do that? And then we just decided to send a unique Dropbox folder to all of these different people, and they would put their projects in there, and then we were uploading them manually for the longest time. And then finally, we paid a developer to kind of build out that part of the site where they could upload their own. And yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of a long transition from going from creator to just running the company.
So as you like shifted out, yeah, it's like, it sounds like, because now you're like, you've been acquired, you're so far away from those early years. But as you shifted out, like what became, or maybe even more recently, like what was like day-to-day work life? If you're obviously not in the early days, you're actually like creating stuff, putting it out there to sell it, versus like recent snapshot of your weekly life.
Yeah, and even that, like, because we were waiting around for a year to sell the company. So
Besides drooling over pictures of Ferraris, what was the other?
the day-to-day kind of was just sitting in on meetings, the developers meeting on Monday, and we tried to limit the meetings, but there were always lots of meetings. And I think Eddie and I are, when it comes down to it, we're product people, and we've always been very focused on the product and kind of how we can make things better. And so that was kind of our focus, because by the time we were being acquired, we already had kind of the more senior level people in place, and they were taking care of all of the other stuff like marketing and just relationships with all of our contributors and that kind of thing. So we were able to focus on basically the product and kind of where to take the company. So that was nice.
Nice. Yeah, that's ideal. And I guess related to that too, I'm thinking like, what was the kind of the main source for those growth years you mentioned? Like, was that just inbound, like marketing and inbound, or did you have like salespeople or anything, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So at the same time we released those Premiere Pro templates, somehow we were able to rank number 1 for After Effects templates.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we saw a lot of growth just from organic traffic. And it wasn't far after that we hired our VP of marketing, and he kind of took over everything. And yeah, he knew what he was doing and we didn't. So he did a really good job. He was big on getting inbound traffic and kind of building out these different hubs for all the different software and kind of every kind of keyword that people are searching for. And yeah, just churning out content after content. And then he knew what he was doing in AdWords. So that was good too, because I had always done the AdWords and, didn't know what I was doing really.
Yeah, that sounds like a nice hire. If you want to slip us his email address or something later, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned ranking 1, was that kind of like by accident, or was it sort of like a combination of like a little bit of effort, but sort of just luck, or how would you frame that?
I probably searched for After Effects templates 5 times a day to see where we were ranking. So a lot of effort went into it.
So that was like the strategy, basically, like, hey, we're just gonna try to like find our way to the top of this, to the top 3 or whatever, hope for the best.
Yeah, and we just struck upon something that worked. It was a combination of a few things. I'll tell it now, but I don't know if it's even relevant anymore. So we were on the first page, but just lower. And we did a bunch of sponsored posts on, video editing site or blogs and stuff like that related to After Effects templates. And then, you do the link from the term After Effects templates to your page. I think that's pretty widely known. So what we did was like a bunch of those all at one time. So I guess it gave signals to Google like, oh, wow, something's going on over here. So we did that. And then it's kind of stupid, but I changed the wording on our page title. I think it was just like After Effects templates or whatever. Everyone had the same title at the same time. And I was like, why don't we put the best After Effects templates? And so
there's your $65 million tactic right there.
Yeah. So we put the best After Effects templates, and I think that just made the click-through rate really high, and it just drove our ranking up on the page. And then, we took that from there and kind of did all of our ads were the best After Effects templates, and those worked really well, but competitors catch on quickly. And it's like, if you search for After Effects templates, there was at some point in time, everyone had the best After Effects templates.
Yeah. Now that phrase is just it's completely meaningless. Honestly, if you put the worst, you'd probably get more eyeballs just because out of curiosity or something.
Right.
Well, that's part of it, right? Is you just gotta like a lot of this stuff is just experimenting with just testing different things that don't take like a ton of effort to change back really. So it's like you can just kind of like test different things and like see what clicks. I mean, that's basically
Pun
what we've
intended.
done too.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
In my
Boom.
my cursory podcast prep, I think I saw that most of the team was remote. Is that right?
Yeah, we've never had an office.
So you're like a pseudo OG remote. Was that again like was that kind of like just organic? Like, oh, we'll hire our first people and we'll kind of like do them from wherever, like hire them from wherever, or was it more like let's just do it this way because then we can just kind of like do our thing?
Yeah, it was. Of course, developers overseas are cheaper, but I guess it was just Eddie and I creating all the content to begin with, and we had outsourced the development, and we were like, why do we get an office? Why do we have that overhead? So I think that's just kind of where it all started from. By the time we were acquired, I think we ended up having maybe seven people here in Atlanta, but still no office.
And that were they here in Atlanta just kind of by network and coincidence more than like intent, or?
Yeah, just by some were previous coworkers of ours, and then some of it was just coincidence.
Nice. Yeah, that's sort of like, I guess we did have an office for a minute. We actually were just debating getting it again because we had it for a year and then we like let it lapse as COVID was hitting because we were like, we don't really need this and it just seems weird to have if we're not going to be using it. And now we're like, it'd be nice to have because it's right by Kimball House and it's just a cool spot. But
It was super cheap
it
too.
still doesn't.
It's
It's like nothing. I mean, it's small
like
too.
$750 a month or something. Very
So
inexpensive.
my business partner Eddie is buying some real estate over there, and I think I've convinced him to start a beer garden. So
Ooh,
maybe he'll
there.
do that.
Yeah. I've been on one
you're
of our
really
recent
into
episodes.
you're into all the drinking stuff, just not the drinking.
I like that though. It's kind of like crafting this world, but like I don't have to participate in it. I just get to make it. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was talking on a recent episode about like the idea of having these like, again, I need to like Google this for the next recording because I know there's someone who's done at least one company that's done this, but it's sort of like an Airbnb thing, but for office space. So, which sounds just like WeWork. But what I mean is like taking unused capacity from like other commercial spaces and like slicing it up and renting it. So like if your co-founder had like a building with a tenant and that tenant was like a restaurant that only opens from 5 p.m. It's like, we'll take the morning shift and we'll like rent it out to people who want to work somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think I've heard of something similar to that.
I think it's also kind of like a mess to try to manage that. So I don't actually want to do that, but it would be cool. Mainly, I just want to work in somewhere cool. That's my end goal. So if your co-founder ever needs some random guys with laptops to come hang out, like,
yeah, he's intending on, I think, creating he's from Nicaragua, so kind of a Latin flair on a coffee shop.
That sounds amazing.
So yeah,
sounds like my favorite restaurant in Miami.
That'll be like nearby
to do it
somewhere potentially.
I'm sorry?
Is that going to be like a Decatur-ish or?
Oh yeah. So across the street from Revival.
Oh, nice. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. He bought.
Isn't that like
properties.
It's like houses.
A couple houses, and then there's also like apartments. So I'm assuming the houses.
Yeah, he bought a couple of the old houses that were, I think, being used for like law firm stuff or just like small medical practice things.
Yeah, I always think when I go by like a lot of those cool buildings just off the square are like, I feel like they're all law firms and stuff, like kind of boring, like back office. So it's good to get some customer face, like some, I guess, pedestrian facing businesses in there.
That's awesome.
His plan is to tear both of the houses down and just build a new building there.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that's like a mile from my house, so I'll be there.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I've been looking at unfortunately, some of the restaurants that have gone out of business, and I'm like, should I call? Like, I see the thing on there that's like, call us if you want to lease this, and like, I obviously don't want to lease it at the normal prices, but I'm like, I wonder if they would like laugh me out of the room if I just called them and said, hey, like, can we lease this for like $750 a month? And then like, as soon as you guys find somebody to actually take it over, like, we'll just give it back. Like, just so you're like making some money, you know what I mean? But also, and then we get like a little spot. Our thing was we didn't want to be in the office we used to be at because there are like other people that have office spaces there, and we just didn't want to like take the chance. But if we could have our own spot, that would be nice.
Where were you guys at?
Good Work. It's
We-
it's like right by Kimball House and like Kelly's Market and all that stuff. Right behind the firehouse.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
it's
that was over
just
there.
a little loft space, and they have probably 10 or 15 different like smaller loft spaces. But yeah, it was like we loved it when we were there, and it's very minimal cost. Probably I think the cheapest. As bootstrappers, we checked like every possible like office situation, co-working in all of Atlanta before we ever chose one, and it's by far the cheapest, the best deal. And it happened to just be like Indicator, which is where I lived at the time. So
Eddie had like a floating desk over at, what is it, Decatur Co-works or something?
Oh yeah, like off Church Street or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
This is the segment of the episode where we just talk about stuff in Decatur. So everyone just skip the next minute and a half and then come back and talk about something else. But yeah, I know that. I've never been in there.
Come visit. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of uninspiring.
Yeah, I know that that little area is kind of uninspiring, but I was hoping that I had seen that existed. I was wondering if it was like a beacon, but I guess not.
Yeah, no.
So you mentioned, obviously, it sounds like your co-founders dabbling in commercial real estate and potentially retail. Or restaurants, I guess I should say, coffee shops. What's your new world looking like these days? What's the road ahead?
Against my wife's, well, she doesn't want me to start any more companies. She's like, I do not want to live the startup life again. But I can't sit still. So yeah, I'm planning on starting some more companies.
Do you have are those things that you've been like
companies,
sitting
plural?
on? Oh yeah, multiple companies at once.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. So to try and appease my wife and not be tied up all the time, I'm wanting to start multiple companies and kind of put the founding team in place, but basically like around my ideas. So I don't know what you would call that, like incubating my own ideas with other people. I'm not sure.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's kind of what. Do you know David Cummings? Probably.
I do not know him personally, but yeah, definitely heard of him.
Yeah, so that's kind of what. I mean, that's kind of what he's mostly done in the past, and he has a great model. I mean, he's done very well. So he typically has an idea for something, and then he finds basically usually younger entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs, and he's like, here's $250K, go, here's my idea, go get it, right? And then he gets like a big chunk of the business, and obviously the other founder gets a big chunk. He's done that with a bunch. He didn't do that with Calendly. I know we were talking about that today. That was a little bit different, where he came in and gave a little bit of a seed investment, but he did that with our Kyle and I previously worked at a company called Rigor in Atlanta. And anyways, he did that with the founder of Rigor. So that's the only reason we know all this information, but which they exited this year as well, or I guess last year, 2020, to Splunk.
That's awesome.
So it was not as good as your win, but definitely a nice little win. But yeah, so it kind of sounds like the same sort of style as that.
Yeah, I
Which is
had no
pretty
idea that that's how he was doing it. Do you know?
Do you want an intro?
Potentially, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried to connect with him on LinkedIn, but he's been just, who is this guy?
Yeah. Well, we're not like best friends or anything. Kyle's over there like, what are you doing? I mean, we're not best friends, but I definitely we've talked many times, and me and my wife have worked for him in some capacity in 4 different companies.
He actually
So,
interviewed me for my internship at Rigor. So
There you go.
Oh, cool.
There you
He
go.
seems like, is he intimidating?
I don't think I knew enough about him at the time to care, maybe. But I think if I had known more, or if I had done that a couple years later, I probably would have been more intimidating. But yeah, he's definitely
hard to
very
read.
knows what he's doing. So that definitely comes through.
Yeah. I mean, he's super nice, and he just wants to help entrepreneurs and stuff. So he's very helpful when he talks to you.
Yeah, we actually
he's,
talked.
He's kind of hard to read.
Like when we started. So
What did he tell us every time? He was like,
don't raise money.
Don't raise money.
Yeah.
Every single time that we talked to him, that's what he said, which is funny since he's basically giving capital to people. I mean, he's basically he's an investor.
Yeah, I would love to pick his brain and kind of learn how he's done things.
Yeah, once I drop the 65 million bootstrapped, I'm pretty sure he'll respond.
Yeah, if Landit connects you, there'll just be a small finder's fee, but otherwise,
Finders.
That's fine.
No, seriously though, I'll try to make an intro via email
That's
or
awesome.
whatever. But
this is live networking also. So for those of you
now
who
we're
just
talking about
skipped
something
ahead
else.
from the Decatur part, we're now just talking about how to connect to people on LinkedIn. So
Yeah, now we're past Decatur. We're talking about somebody that probably nobody else knows on here. But no, that's cool. I mean, that's something that Kyle and I mean, we're not nearly at the point where we could probably do that, but that's been something we've talked about as well. Because I mean, I'm sure like we're probably very similar in the fact that we have millions of ideas, probably many of them terrible ideas, but like, you know, some of them are probably good. And you have all these ideas and you want to do all these things, but you know, you're only a few people, so there's not enough time in the day to take them all on. But yeah, like if you could find, right, like a founding team or, you know, different people that are kind of like, you know, have the entrepreneurial mindset, they could like take it on and run with it. There's another company called High Alpha, which is in Indianapolis, it's kind of like a startup studio. It's actually really similar to what David Cummings does. So, and actually funny enough, the guy that runs that one, it was the founder of ExactTarget, who is the one that purchased David Cummings' company, Pardot, which made him like wealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, basically what they do is they have a founding team or like studio founding team. They do these like, I don't know what they call it, but it's basically like hackathons where like every like once a year or, you know, once every like 6 months, they kind of break into little teams and they come up with the, you know, some sort of idea and business model and whatever. And then they like kind of bake it out to the point where they can like literally where there's a website and like kind of basic, I don't know, like wireframes or like something that is like almost ready, you know, to be taken on. And then they transfer that to like an entrepreneur where I don't know how they split the equity up, but they give it to an entrepreneur and let them run with it. They usually fund them as well. And then they've had a ton of, as far as I know, they've had like some pretty successful companies thus far, but it seems like a cool model to go that approach.
Yeah. I would just love to like see my ideas become something rather than like what's happened in the past where it's like, oh, that's a really good idea. I can't work on it now. And then, 2 years later, someone starts it and you're like, I had that idea, so.
Well, I see that you, on your site, you kind of have like the very basic frameworks of some of these ideas. So they are like somewhat public. Is there any that like a couple that off the top of your head that are kind of like your favorites that you're like just dying to kind of build out?
I think most of them there.
They wouldn't be there if they did.
Yeah, so we're working on an MVP right now for the best list idea.
Okay.
So like the holding company is called Failure Incorporated. And I mean, I named it that to kind of encourage failure, right? So, but the idea of best list is kind of, it'll be like the core company. And then all of these other companies, while they can live on their own, they will also feed Best List with data to help make Best List a better product.
Interesting.
If that makes sense.
So Best List, so it says it's a innovative discovery tool that helps users find the best of anything online. So is this kind of like, is it more like, I'm trying to think of like what it's
like a directory
is it,
type thing?
Yeah, is it like a directory or like,
yeah,
or is it more like media site, like where people are talking about the best thing, like a curated site or something?
So I'm kind of calling it like, rather than a search engine, which it is, more of like a discovery engine. So like if you're looking for the best, I don't know.
After Effects plugins, for example.
Yeah, well.
No, the worst. I thought we chose the worst.
Yeah, there we go.
Worst list. Yeah, so if you're looking for the best like newsletter services, you can just type in like newsletter application and it will just give you direct results rather than, how Google operates where you're going to get 20 blog posts that are all listicles of, the different services. And then you've got to go and do all of your research there. So,
and like 6 ads before that, by the way.
Yeah. So
6
that's
ads
kind of
for the
basic.
And how do you just, maybe this is the secret sauce, but like, how do I know it's the best?
You just got to trust us.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Yeah, we're working on kind of, like I said, we're working on the MVP now, but definitely I don't want to release anything unless it's working and provides enough value. So, and if it fails, it's kind of in the name. So
There you go. Boom.
That is a good way to kind of start it off. It's like, this is probably going to fail. So don't get mad.
Yeah, I mean, just over the years with Motion Array, it's like you just try so many things. They're not all going to be good. Some of them are going to fail, and you just can't be afraid of kind of taking that step and going out on a limb.
Yeah, especially I
for
think
sure.
when you get to a place that you kind of have success. I mean, even how you guys have, it's like pretty logical progression of what happened, but it's not like a given, right? That you would branch off into like, oh, we're going to do a marketplace style, and now we're going to branch off into these other channels of plugins and content and stuff. Like, if you're too scared to be wrong, you might just like stick with what works, but you never really break open that next like pocket.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so we had the marketplace and it was doing well, but we always had the issue of, relatively high churn. And we just always attributed that to like, people aren't always going to need unlimited stock music or unlimited After Effects templates. So we were trying to think of other tools and, software that we could make that people would use on a regular basis to help with our retention. So yeah, that's when we kind of broke out and we started making some plugins that it's software inside of the editing software. And it allowed us to make it where you had to log in to use the plugins. So you'd have to have your ongoing membership for that. And then we had kind of the review and annotation tool for getting your videos approved. And we saw that as kind of like a regular thing people would need. And then we built a portfolio website builder too.
Oh, nice.
To help. Yeah, so we were kind of looking at it as like the whole full circle of video creation. Like, we'll give you the stuff to make the video, we'll give you the stuff to get it approved, and then we'll give you the stuff to display your work so that you can get more work.
And then you can come back and dip and buy more stuff from us, basically.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, like, I know you're not sharing revenue, but like, do you have a sense of like, for each of those kind of categories, what the like percentage was ish?
I mean, I think we had to break this out during the acquisition, but I mean, definitely we're known for the marketplace first. And these two things were relatively new and didn't get as much traction as we wanted, but the people that used them loved them. So I don't know if it was like we didn't market it enough or, yeah, I'm not sure. But for the longest time, yeah, we didn't really put much emphasis on it. And we finally repositioned the company from like, this is a marketplace to it being like an all-in-one video makers platform. And that was kind of just before the acquisition. So I don't really have the results of that.
Nice. Good enough, I guess.
Yeah.
On the plugins that you guys built, did you have like separate like websites or landing pages for those that ranked? Like, would people find those first before they like even knew about your full platform? Would they find those and then like that's basically how you got the lead into sort of like having to pay for the membership to all of it?
Yeah. So I think we ranked number 1 for Premiere Pro plugins, as well as Premiere Pro templates, After Effects templates. I don't think we ever ranked very high for stock music just because it's kind of an old category that, yeah, it's hard to rank for, but yeah.
This is kind of like random out of left field. I think most people sort of, I guess when they think of like stock anything, they think of stock photos, right? I don't know why. It's just like what people think about, I guess. With like Getty Images and Shutterstock, they both are like around $1 billion in revenue. Like, do you know is the stock audio and stock video market as big as the stock image or stock photo market? Do you know? I mean, is that any like, did you guys ever go into that analysis or anything?
Well, I mean, you can look up like Shutterstock's earning reports and stuff.
Right.
I mean, they're doing a ton of money.
Oh yeah. Getty Images apparently is doing higher revenues based on whatever I looked up, my lazy Google search that I just did.
Wow.
They're doing $1 billion in revenue. They've been around longer, I think. Shutterstock is like, I mean, it's I don't know when they started, but within the last like 15 years, I think Getty Images has been around like forever. Like they've been around a long time.
Yeah, and they're not publicly traded, are they?
I don't think so. So this is like, I'm sure the number's like not 100% accurate, but that's the estimated revenue apparently,
Wow.
which is pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
I never would have guessed that. But yeah, so we recently just added stock photos
Oh, cool.
just because, like, if you can't find the perfect stock video, you can grab a photo and just like put a zoom on it or something to kind of fill in the gap. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of worry about where stock stuff is headed with like so much becoming free, with like Unsplash, right? Like just amazing photos for free. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And well, I mean, I guess people can, it's still not quite as good as like a great, camera from like somebody that's like an actual photographer, but like phones take pretty solid photos these days. So that a lot of that stuff gets out there free too.
But yeah, I feel like the old moat or protection is like, well, yeah, they're free, but they're crappy. But yeah, like Unsplash is like pretty good. So it's like, okay.
I do have a question about a couple of the other. Kyle, I don't know if you're on his site, failure.inc, but a couple of these are kind of interesting ideas, I think. And I'm like still like I'm coming back to these now. But just to like end it here. One of them, Zipline. So Kyle and I mean, anybody that listens to the podcast, number one, we're like ad reformers in the ad tech industry. So BrowseBank is kind of interesting because it's like a new advertising model. But we're also like pretty passionate about support. So I'd love to hear. So yeah, tell me about Zipline. What is that? On-demand customer support?
Yeah, it's probably not worded properly. I think I just had to give the designer some copies. So
This is this is the copy editing portion.
Yeah. So the idea is, let's say you're having an issue with an After Effects template and you need some help. The idea with Zipline is that you just go to Zipline and you type in the software you're having trouble with, and there will be kind of like this, just a group of After Effects artists sitting by that can take your question. You can do a screen share and kind of show them your issue, and then they can just walk you through the problem.
Oh, that's cool.
Get you to a solution really quickly. Yeah.
I've seen this like in the software development side. It's like Code Mentor, where you can like be like, hey, I need help with this thing. And you can just like pay someone some amount to like just jump on a call real quick and figure it out or whatever.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of that, but man, when I was trying to learn JavaScript, I could have definitely used that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, just get on someone. If you can like talk to someone who knows, you're just going to save yourself like 3 days of Googling and like failing.
Yeah. It's like, you just need a semicolon here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, that typo. Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the idea there.
And yeah,
Awesome.
I guess I pulled it up too. So is one of these an e-commerce company, Failure Supply? Is that going to be like an e-commerce store?
T-shirts?
Yeah, I was thinking kind of just fun t-shirts and stuff.
Sweet. That's awesome. Well, let us know.
We're doing the same thing.
Yeah, we're going to make Made with Grit swag.
Yeah, we could hook you up with, I mean, if you need like a designer or something, we're working with a company in Atlanta that does a lot of like the restaurants in Atlanta. And he's in the process of designing us a Made with Grit, not necessarily associated with our podcast, but just like a shirt that says Made with Grit. So
that's cool.
We still haven't seen the design yet, but
It'll be great.
Are you going to do like drop shipping or like printing on demand, or are you going to try to have inventory?
For starters, we're probably going to order like 5 t-shirts, but if we do something, it'll probably be not holding inventory because that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I was looking at like Shopify, and they have lots of integrations with a bunch of those companies.
Yeah,
So
it sounds like it's pretty well worn at this point to just stand up like a on-demand, like little Printfection based or whatever those things are store.
yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple, I don't know, like customers at UserFeed that, it was basically like you could flip up basically a landing page with like one or two products on it, and they would handle everything. So like from the website to, printing the shirts to sending them out, like literally every single piece of that. But I'm not sure like what percentage they took. It was probably a lot to the point where you just make no money. But but you,
It's a cool
you can
idea.
do that.
You can add that
It's
to
kind
your
of starting backwards, right? Like starting with the printing shop and then providing the other services to help your users actually sell the sites or sell the t-shirts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a strong strategy here.
Yeah.
It was more like,
It starts with like,
Huh.
I want a cool shirt.
yeah, that would be cool. I think people would like that.
I just want a t-shirt with failure on it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Well, I guess so today I saw your post on LinkedIn. This will be like the last topic. I don't even know if I'm not sure if Kyle saw this or not, but he doesn't get on LinkedIn much. But you were kind of like, and just like everybody else, I think is probably asking the same question. Like, how did Calendly get a $3 billion valuation at $70 million in revenue? That was basically your question, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you hear about like 10x multiple or like 15, maybe 20 on the super high end, but yeah, up in the 40x was it was just mind-boggling for me. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's like a good explanation for it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the podcast, but basically so for those that haven't seen the news, they raised, what was it, $350 million, which put them at a $3 billion valuation, and they're at 70 million in revenue right now. And a lot of people are like, what is good? Like, well, first of all, a lot of people think that they raised money that now they're going to put in the business and like really like, grow it. But the heavy majority, obviously I don't know the exact numbers, but from what I understand, the heavy majority of it was like just went to like the founder and the, like I think there's like 2 investors before that and maybe some early employees or something. So it was mostly just like liquidity event. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I told you, I think it's one of those things where Tope's a good friend of mine, and we actually used to work in Calendly's office for a while before we had our own office, and now we work at home.
I would love an intro there as well.
Good luck.
That one. So I'm way closer with Tope. He's definitely a good friend, but he is literally impossible to like
the irony here.
get into. I know, it's like I'm 99% sure David will take a meeting with you if I intro you. If I intro you to Tope, I'm like 100% sure he won't take a meeting. And it has nothing to do with you.
Literally builds
It has
a $3 billion tool to schedule meetings.
He sounds busy.
Yeah, I mean, of course he is busy, but he just he doesn't like to talk about, I don't know how to explain it. He doesn't like to talk about business. Like it's almost like you have to like catch it on the right day where it's like, he's like, hey, you want to go get drinks or something? And then I'm like, hey, Tyler, just come with me. Come meet me for drinks, even though you don't drink. And like, then he'll be like best friends with you. But yeah, I mean, there's been a bunch of people that I've tried to make intros to, and it's just like almost impossible. It's very difficult. But I know he's been getting, because they only took 500K very early on, mostly from David Cummings. And everybody has been trying to get in there. Like all these VCs have been trying to get in for years. And like, he shoots them down every time. And so I think it just came to the point where it was like somebody made an offer that basically was like, I can't turn this offer down.
Yeah.
And then so it just happened to be that like 40x multiple or whatever. But I did have a conversation with him not too long ago where I was talking about like valuations or something. And it was like in sort of like, I feel like if you're under $1 million in ARR, valuations tend to be, I mean, most valuations tend to be like 3 to 5x revenue. Like that's kind of like the standard that we've seen, or that we've seen with like other people and stuff. Once you get above $1 million, you can start getting, 5 to 10x. And then like, it can be beyond that, I guess, after that. But when I was talking about that with him, he was like, what are you talking about? It's like, I'm seeing like, I think at the time he said like 50x or something. He said something like 50x, and I was like, what? He's like, the market's crazy right now. Like the offers that are being thrown around.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're in their world, like,
and I think they're just growing like insanely. They're growing insanely fast, and their like growth model is just shows no signs of slowing, basically. So
yeah.
My friend commented about how they had like over 1,000% growth or something.
That'll do it. There we go. Yeah, it's like well,
Well, it's
to make
not-
up the money. Like, how long would it take to just get to 350 million in revenue? Like at that rate, obviously it won't continue forever, but it's crazy.
it's not just I mean, obviously they're growing super fast, but you get a lot of these like VC backed companies that are growing super fast too. And, they have a lot of salespeople and like they're taking all the like typical, like tons of ads, tons of salespeople, and
Basically,
they're burning, but like they are growing fast, right? So like a Slack or something, you know what I mean? But with Calendly, their CAC is like insane, like unreal in comparison to the other. Like basically, if you were to look at like some sort of like metrics or something in terms of like revenue growth, they're like on par with all the top SaaS, all the top SaaS companies that have raised tons of money and that are burning in all these things. But when you look at their CAC is just like super, super low compared because they've got that, like the viral component. And they, when we were, I guess Kyle, I don't remember exactly, but this was like a couple of years ago when we were working at their office. They were, I mean, when we started working at their office, they were maybe like, I don't know, 50 employees, I think. And I guess by the time we left, maybe they were around like 100. But like they have,
which was like less than a year later, by the way.
Yeah. And this is when they're like, I don't know, like 40 million in revenue or something. So like they were, I mean,
not even, I don't think.
Super low cost.
I think they grew like 20 million that year or something crazy. That's probably because we were there. Now that I'm saying that, we probably should get a cut.
That's their biggest.
How much of the 350 are we getting?
I don't know. That's a funny story. We definitely enjoyed our time working there and like enjoying their great office and all that stuff. But by the end of it, they asked me, like I was doing demos and stuff, and I would go like hide in a corner because I didn't want to like disrupt everybody in this giant open office. So I would like be polite and like go in a corner and do it in like a hallway. And we knew it was our time to leave when when someone told me that I can't take them in the hallway anymore, that I need to go into, what was it? The fire,
like the stairwell, the fire exit,
the fire exit. That's where I need to take my demos from now on. And I was like, all right, it's time for us to go get our own office now. But yeah, it was the last time I talked to him about like growth stuff, which probably like, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. He said they were doing like $1 million a week in new revenue, ARR. So growth is, they're crushing it.
Yeah, and it's such a great story. I think I listened to it on, was it How I Built This?
Yeah,
recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind
of the whole idea of like taking $200,000 and going to the Ukraine or to Ukraine.
It's in most situations that would have never worked out. But so the reason why we know, like, I guess like our connection initially. So at Rigor, we worked at Atlanta Tech Village, and that's where Tope was as well. He's the founder. It was just him. I think at the time, this was like when he did that, where he went out to Ukraine. Pretty sure it was just him and the Ukraine folks. And then slowly he like would add, like a developer or whatever in his office. But we actually were like, we were right next to their office for like a really long time. And we were like the bigger company. We were like always like, I think at some point we like added a few people and we were like, sorry, like we're taking over your office, and like kicked them out, which is hilarious now.
They got us back, I guess.
Company. Oh, they got it. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how we initially met him. And then like he was nice enough to let us jump into his office when we were just like this lowly entrepreneurs, not making any money, bootstrappers. But yeah, they're doing pretty well. But yeah, I guess somebody just made them the offer that he couldn't refuse, and it happened to be 40x. But yeah, it's a pretty cool story. I mean, same with yours. Like, I don't know, like maybe I'm just like biased being in Atlanta, or just like not knowledgeable of the other bootstrap stories around the US, but it kind of feels like Atlanta is like or just like Metro Atlanta is like the kind of the capital for like these bootstrapped companies having big success stories. It's like you guys, MailChimp, Calendly. I mean, I say Calendly, like I don't know, they're technically not bootstrapped, but I mean, they're pretty close.
Or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. But yeah, it seems like, I mean, there's others, but it just seems like there's a lot of awesome stories.
Yeah. I love having another kind of Cinderella story for Atlanta. Because for the longest time, it's been MailChimp, and now,
Mhm.
now there's Calendly. So that's awesome.
And Motion Array. I mean,
Yeah, I'm partial.
65
I'm
million
actually partial
Snowchuck.
to Motion Array because it's also something that like you probably haven't heard of. Like the common person probably doesn't even know about this problem space, right? Which is what makes it really cool to me because that's more like us. Like we build tools for ad ops people, and a lot of people don't even know what that means. Like, and I think it's cool to be like, you can build a pretty big business off of in this like space you might not have ever heard of. It's really cool.
Right. Yeah.
So hats off.
It makes it difficult to explain what you do.
Yeah, that's why we started a podcast. So I actually was just talking to my father-in-law who listens to the podcast. So shout out to Jeff. It's like it's a good way to it's a good like opt-in like publish subscribe model where it's like, hey, if you want to find out what we do, like you can listen to long conversations. But if you don't, like if you ask me at a birthday party or something, it's probably not going to be interesting. So
it's going to be like one of these one-liners you have on your website for these
yeah, exactly.
different ideas. Same thing. That's what I always say too. I'm like, it's ad tech. I work at a software company.
Yeah.
Like I don't know I know it's not going to go over well, so I just don't even bother explaining it.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
I have an internet.
Yeah, I'm an internet business guy. What I don't know if you watched BoJack Horseman, but I always laugh at the business factory. That's kind of what
I make internet money. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Well, cool.
Bitcoin?
That's another conversation. All this stock stuff and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We'll have to save that one for the next.
my podcast
for the
feed
next
was just like
round.
everyone commenting on this, so we'll spare you.
I've got a good story to tell. I've lost some money and I've made some money, so I've got some good stories to tell.
Yeah.
Next
If
podcast.
you stuck with us this far, thank you. If you ever find yourself in Decatur, there's going to be a new Latin oriented watering hole of some sort or coffee shop. So that'll be cool. And Tyler, thanks for joining and like just sitting by watching us meander our way through this. But it's been awesome hearing about your journey, and I'm excited to see what's next. We'll have to get you back on to like check in with all the failures you've produced in the next year or two at Failure Inc.
Yeah, and to see if the networking happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. We can
absolutely.
take Landon to task for not doing a
Boom.
good enough job connecting you.
No,
And we can trade swag
got
and
you.
stuff. So
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. But thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, and where can people like connect with you or find your products?
Yeah, so the new site is just failure.inc. I bought one of those ridiculously high-priced .inc domains. Yeah, so you can go there. But my email is tyler@failureinc if you want to reach out. So
Awesome. And then it looks like you're @T_Williams_. It might be 2 underscores. I can't tell. It looks like there's 2. at the end.
there.
Just look up Tyler Williams on Twitter from Decatur.
And maybe Motion Array. I don't know what will get you the right result.
Well, yeah, thanks for jumping on. Yeah, your story is definitely like an inspiration to us. So we're super excited to chat about it. And yeah, until next time.
Yeah, thanks guys. And I wish you guys good luck too.
awesome.
Oh, thanks.
We'll need it. Thanks, Tyler.
You don't need it.
See ya.